The US should really celebrate for the achievements they have gone through till now and the ones to come.
My parents were constantly at the school and trying to come up with some alternate solution that the school would be okay with.
They won't hire me to cook their food, but the law says that we can get married. It's wrong. Come on.
I'm just the kind of person that if I know something's right and somebody's not being right with me, I'm just going to stand up to it.
A child needs two parents. You don't go through an 11-year relationship and take away that person and think that that child's going to be okay.
The long view of the fight for LGBT equality is that being LGBT or T is, on the one hand, something to be celebrated as valid and wonderful in and of itself, and also irrelevant, totally irrelevant to your freedoms, your opportunities, your legal rights.
Uganda has been increasingly hostile to its LGBTQ citizens.
When you're arrested and charged, they charge you with carnal knowledge against the order of nature. I have been arrested and charged under that law. I left knowing that I was coming to speak for 2 weeks.
Things got worse with the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, which increased the penalties for quote-unquote homosexuality, but also made it illegal to promote homosexuality.
One of my friends told me, think about your safety and think about your daughter's safety. Uganda is here and Uganda will never go anywhere.
We applied for asylum on John's behalf based upon the past persecution that he faced as well as his fear of future persecution. We are ecstatic that that asylum application was granted and John is now free to stay in this country and continue his important work on behalf of the LGBT community in Uganda.
My victory means a lot. I will be able to continue working with very many partners and allies in the US to ensure that LGBT programs in Uganda are really supported.
When I wore my first skirt to school in 5th grade, everyone was like, it's about time. Like, why didn't you wear a skirt like last year or like the year before?
The school really understood that although she's a transgender girl, she's a girl, fully and completely. Part of that inclusion in the school was that she freely used the girls' student restroom.
This kid just like walks in, totally straight face, doesn't say a thing, just goes into the second stall, closes it, does his business, and walks out, and all the while, we're just sort of standing there like, is he lost?
The school disciplined the boy, which was the right thing to do. But it also changed Nicole's policy of being allowed to access freely the girls' restroom.
I would overhear my parents talking about like, this isn't fair, like she shouldn't have to use like the staff bathroom. And I was like, yeah, I shouldn't have to use the staff bathroom. I was with my friends and we were going to the girls' bathroom. And the principal, instead of, you know, like a person saying, oh, sorry, you're supposed to use this bathroom, whistles down the hall at me like I'm a waitress, snaps at me and points to the gender-neutral bathroom, and so just sort of calls me out in front of everybody.
The key to winning the case in the Maine Supreme Court was to get the court to understand that a transgender girl is a girl. And so we did something very unconventional. We put right on the first page of our Maine Supreme Court brief a picture of Nicole Maines, because you couldn't look at this picture and come to any other conclusion. Nicole is a girl.
In the end, the Maine High Court affirmed that what the school did in the first place was what it should have done the entire year. It's a model for other schools to look to step up in the first instance and do what they know is right.
There is a lot of work to do. And there is a lot of work that will continue to be done. And I just think this is something that's really going to get us moving forward.
We're litigating a case now on behalf of a gay man, Matthew Barrett, who applied to Fontbonne Academy, a Catholic girls' school, to be their food services director.
I was a food service director for a corporate facility.
For 10 years?
It was, right, for 11 years. And that was like 1,200 people I would serve every day. Now this was for a couple hundred students. I was certainly qualified for this position, obviously because they hired me.
They were eager to have him start as soon as possible, and then they asked him to fill out the emergency contact form.
And I put my husband, Ed, as my contact.
2 days later, he was called in and told, being in a same-sex marriage is contrary to Catholic teaching, we can't hire you. And he was fired without ever having showed up to the first day of work.
I couldn't believe that this was, in this day and age, an issue for a cook or a food service manager.
We have a balance in our law between religious liberty and non-discrimination that religiously affiliated entities now are trying to tip more in favor of giving them broader rights to discriminate.
Discrimination, that's what it is. And they shouldn't be able to get away with it. They shouldn't have their own set of rules to play by.
Lipodystrophy is a side effect of the first wave of life-saving HIV medications in the early 1990s that creates disfiguring and debilitating changes to body shape. It is a disclosure of HIV status at a time when HIV remains the most stigmatized health condition in America. People who experience it suffer from rejection, discrimination, ostracism in the community, and that is just simply not tolerable.
I used to be a social outgoing guy, but because of the way I look and the humiliating reactions people have to my appearance, I hardly ever leave my house anymore. I thought about suicide many times, but it goes against my Catholic faith, and it would devastate my sister.
And yet, we have simple medical treatments to cure this condition, but insurance companies refuse to pay for it. They say it's cosmetic, even though they cover restorative procedures for many other side effects of health conditions. It is unconscionable that we have people who have survived AIDS only to become suicidal and shut-ins. We need to change that, and we are doing that through insurance appeals and through legislation to require insurance companies to pay for health care that people with HIV need.
We represented a transgender woman, Rikki Bates, who had sought and was denied state Medicaid coverage for gender transition-related care based on this completely antiquated, outdated statement that gender transition-related surgeries are ineffective and experimental.
People who've had the surgery are much more productive. They earn better wages and much less suicidal. It's really, truly a medical necessity.
We've had a terrific outcome in that case because it was during the course of the litigation that the State Insurance Commission and the State Medicaid Agency recognized and agreed that there's absolutely no basis for those exclusions.
The governor made an announcement that transgender health care was going to be covered by Medicaid, including the surgery. We feel that something got influenced by our case, which I'm unbelievably proud of.
It really turns the tide in terms of what is possible for getting insurance to cover transgender people's essential medical needs.
Parenting in this nation historically has been very much tied to marriage, and not everyone will marry who has children. It leaves us in a situation where you have same-sex couples who deliberately come together to have children, but they don't have the genetic tie, which can disrupt their whole planned family. And it's important for us to move the law to look at the reality of the families that exist on the ground.
In the Madelyn B case, our client was an unmarried, non-birth mother who helped care for her daughter for 11 years until her ex-partner told her that she could no longer see her daughter.
I went as usual to go pick her up for my weekend with her. Melissa and Maddie were sitting together. Melissa's husband was over on the other side, and he proceeded to tell me that Maddie doesn't want to be with you anymore. I said, you know, that's my daughter. And he said, well, she's my daughter, and I'll see you in court.
After 11 years, you can imagine how harmful that could be to the best interests of the child here. We litigated that case to the New Hampshire Supreme Court, who just recently decided and held that our client was indeed a parent. And now she's in the process of being able to see her daughter for the first time in over a year.
We have families of every sort, and I think it's important that our nation value all families and not only marital families.
The question is not what work is left to be done. The question is what world can we create for the generations to come? Will it be a world where students are simply protected from bullying, or will it be a world where they actually learn about LGBTQ history in the schools?
LGBT youth continue to face just unbelievable amounts of discrimination.
We have an epidemic of homelessness amongst LGBTQ youth. Many of the youth don't have supportive families, and so there's much work to create the environments where families can be supportive of LGBTQ youth.
Aging is an example where we need an LGBT-specific focus.
No person should have to go back into the closet as they age in order to be treated with dignity.
We now have an opportunity, I think, to make common cause with the other aging groups about what are the sensible protections that should be in place for a whole variety of senior services. We need to be part of that discussion and be at those tables.
Our work on lipodystrophy is fundamentally a question of healthcare access, and that has been something that's been a focus of GLAAD's mission, not only for people with HIV, but for lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, as well as transgender people from the beginning of our organizational history.
We need to be vigilant in ensuring that people don't get to erect new barriers to wall themselves off from LGBT people. There is nothing that helps to break down barriers and establish one's common humanity like interaction.
New England has always been a leader of the movement, and the rest of the country is looking to us to lead the way beyond formal equality and towards lived equality, beyond equal treatment and towards equal justice under law.